Hello, I'm April Jones, and we at Jones Law Firm care about you, your family, and your well-being. That's why we've put together this informative webinar series to answer your questions about life, about the law, about your family. So thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Hi, everybody. I am April Jones with Jones Law Firm PC. Welcome to our webinar on divorcing a narcissist. I have been an attorney 30 years now. We've had Jones Law Firm PC serving families in Colorado since 2000. So over 20 years, we have been in Colorado. Very proud about that, excited about our roots. And I have our amazing senior associates on the call today to help answer questions. David Collins, do you want to go ahead, introduce yourself, and then we'll have Morgan. She'll introduce herself, and then we'll jump right in with questions because we only have half an hour.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Collins, a senior associate at Jones Law Firm, practicing exclusively family law, which is divorce, allocation of parental responsibilities, child support. I also do guardianship and step-parent adoption.
Thank you.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Morgan Terrell. I'm also a senior associate attorney at Jones Law Firm. I do primarily family law and criminal defense. Since those two areas overlap more frequently than most of us would like, I take care of that for Jones. So welcome.
Okay, so we already have some questions. And part of what's interesting about the topic is divorcing a narcissist after COVID. How to do that well. And we have in the title How to Win, but we don't, I mean, that's a marketing title. That's not how we feel about what it is families go through. We prefer to think of it as how to create a situation that's in the best interest of the client and the client's family, and that's winning. Winning test. Would you agree, David? Do you want to comment on that?
No, I agree. I couldn't have said it better.
Okay. So then this scenario that we're talking about, it's a really popular topic, is you've been married to someone who's a difficult, self-centered person. They're unable to empathize with others. Everything is about them in a way that's more exaggerated. Because, for most people, you think of yourself, you think of, what's good for you. And so we're not talking about that in general. We're talking about when it's exaggerated to the point that you can't put the interests of others before your own. And one of the criteria for parenting and the court determining the best interest of the child, because that is what the court is charged with analyzing when it comes to a parenting schedule, is the ability of a parent to put their own interests aside and put the child's interest ahead. And we find that narcissists have a difficult time, to say the least, in seeing beyond themselves. And that creates a problem in a dissolution situation, because under Colorado law, for the most part, you're dividing your marital property equally, fairly, and the narcissist can have a hard time when they're deciding, what's fair to them and how difficult they'll be and how far they will go to get more for themselves and have more for themselves. And it can be a particularly challenging situation, which if you're in this situation, I probably don't have to say anything more about how challenging it can be. So let's go ahead and get to some questions, because divorcing a narcissist poses problems that are not always present in other cases. You may be wondering, how do I know I'm dealing with a narcissist spouse, and how do I communicate with a narcissist spouse? David, why don't you give a quick example of that situation and how you've managed to help your clients communicate or not?
Sure. I think one of the key factors in dealing, well, let me start with this by saying we often are told by our clients, my future ex-husband or wife is a narcissist. And that's why I'm hiring you. So I'll start by saying that people often hire an attorney as a layer of insulation from the narcissist they're divorcing. And that's because the narcissist is exceptionally combative. They will turn the divorce into a war and really try to make it the last fight they have with the person they're divorcing. And often will try to continue the fight even after the divorce if they can find a way to litigate post-decree. Um, the I think the signs of a narcissist for us are that they're really unwilling to resolve the matter amicably. The court in any divorce requires the parties to go to mediation with the hopes of settling without a judge having to hold an evidentiary hearing and decide the fate of a marital assets and the children of a marriage. And about 50% of our cases settle at mediation because parties are willing and able to negotiate and have some give and take. Often with a narcissist, there is no give and take. There is no room for negotiation. And so even though we attend mediation, it's more of a formality to accomplish that requirement for the court. And we know going in, it's unlikely that we'll settle because they won't agree to anything. Sometimes the narcissist won't even agree to what they proposed. So they'll make a proposal, okay, let's do this and that with the property and this with the children. And we say, great, let's do it. And they say, actually, now I want more. Or I don't want what I said I wanted. And I can tell you that as the counsel, they do battle with us just as much as they do with you. So we do provide you that layer of protection as the attorney so that they have to communicate with us and not with you about the divorce. But it doesn't mean they're behaving with us either. And so we're cautious to make sure we communicate with them in writing so we can capture and keep a record of what they say. Because often the narcissist will say to the judge, Mr. Collins was so rude. Mr. Collins didn't want to hear my offer. Mr. Collins was unreasonable. And I say, Your Honor, I have all of the communications in writing. I'm happy to share them with the court. Attorneys have a high threshold for professionalism, and we have to treat everyone with respect and dignity, even the narcissistic ex-spouse. And so we do. But we protect ourselves from the attack we think they'll launch on us by keeping our communications in writing. I've definitely had verbal attacks by, I would say, narcissistic opposing parties in phone calls, and usually that's when I stop engaging on the phone with these people so I can have a written record of how they communicate with me. I hope that answers your question, April.
Yes, no, it does. One of the most dramatic narcissist opposing counsel situations is when they hire an attorney who just feeds into what is not even reasonable. I've had a situation, for example, where a party married, 35 years, one of the spouses wanted 75% of all the property. Now that's not going to happen. Our client was a stay-at-home mom, and the kids were all grown. She'd done great. She, pretty typical, if you just for ease of this discussion, that she'd been there, raised the kids, kept the home, allowed the husband to go forth and conquer. And he just really thought that because of that, he should have the majority of the funds. Now, if that was our client, and when we have the narcissist, you sit the narcissist down and you talk about the law, you explain what's realistic, what's going to happen. But if they happen, when you're in a really, this gets bad and expensive fast, when they hire an attorney who will feed it. So then they're filing motions to support that position. They're exaggerating everything they can and dragging out everything they can and being ridiculous as a group, the counsel and the lawyer. And that's what if you can avoid that, that will save you so much money, because those are the worst. At the end of the day, you have to go to trial, you have to expend all the emotional energy as clients. And then I guess I always wonder, what does that opposing counsel say? Oh, well, we lost that. Like, you knew you were going to lose it. You knew you were going to spend all their money, and you knew this is going to go nowhere except just feeding the emotions of the narcissist. So my goal for clients is, even when we're in that situation, is to just stand really firm. Like, this is yes, and this is no, and this is nonsense. And so we need attorney's fees for nonsense. We need attorney's fees because you dragged something out. We need attorney's fees because we think that's fraudulent. Like, you just stay stay in there. I've had the court order attorney's fees per day, and the narcissists just keep going. So at the end of the day, the point is you need a counsel that's going to draw a line, hold the line, stay firm, and just go through the process with you, with the goal of you coming out stronger and better on the other end. Although you may need some therapy while it's happening so that you can stay sane and move on and, you know, continue the path of moving on to the next best healthy place in your life. So how can I protect my children when we divorce? That's a big one. Morgan.
Yeah, so this is something I think that, you know, myself and my own practice is a huge focus, just because, you know, typically that's a huge focus for clients. And it's, you know, unfortunately, sometimes not an easy thing to do, and something, you know, that does bring obviously a lot of tension and, you know, emotion to the situation that's already pretty highly charged. I think that, you know, protecting children from someone who is a narcissist is especially challenging in that, you know, that opposing party who is the narcissist is not really going to care about what's best for the children, right? They only care about, you know, what their definition of winning is, whatever that might be. They're not looking, you know, to act in the best interest, you know, of the children, just because I think they can't. You know, I think as a narcissist being defined that way, you know, sort of eliminates the possibility of being able to, you know, feel what the children are feeling and to understand that and to really take that into consideration before their own needs. I think that, you know, oftentimes we get experts involved in cases to help deal with this. I know someone in the chat mentioned a CFI, the Child and Family Investigator. I think that's a really good tool for sort of exposing, you know, the narcissistic tendencies on the other side. CFIs are specially trained to sort of, you know, sort out those issues and get through the weeds on that. And I think that ultimately, you know, if you know, being not the narcissist or acting in the best interest of your children, you know, that is, you have the law on your side, essentially, right? That's what the judge is going to try and do. So, you know, while the process is, you know, long and painful, ultimately, if that's your focus, you know, I think that's going to win out in front of, you know, any judge. And I think, you know, experts who are appointed to look at those things are going to be able to see through that, you know, the vast majority of the time. At least that's what we hope. You know, and so adequate preparation for that is key. I know I work really closely with clients to help them prepare for that investigation because it can be super invasive and, you know, super detailed, but ultimately it carries a lot of weight with the court and can be a tool for sort of exposing those, you know, those narcissistic traits that are and qualities that are present on the other side.
David, anything you want to add about custody and narcissism?
Yeah, one real problem with narcissistic behavior and children is that the narcissist will talk to the children about the case and talk to the children about their mother or their father. That's entirely inappropriate. That's why a child and family investigator can be very helpful, because they can reveal for the judge that one parent is incapable of not involving the children in the divorce. And the judge, in every case, never wants the children to be involved in the divorce. They don't want the children in court. They don't want the parties talking to the children about it. And, you know, narcissists are not really self-aware, so they don't know this, but there's really nothing you can tell a child about the other parent that the child is really going to believe. They're just going to have animosity towards the parent who is saying negative things about the other parent.
We have a question into the panel. Are judges aware of the concept of narcissism, how it impacts all parties, children, finances, etc.? And are they able to see through this and apply when making decisions? Yes, but is my seasoned answer, because the situation is not, it's not necessarily obvious for a while. And unless you can lay it out and explain it, the narcissist can present quite well. I mean, if you're in a situation, you know that better than I do. So if the narcissist is just presenting well and no one's saying, hey, let me tell you what's really happening here, the court can easily miss it. And if they gain foothold in the court by appearing to be reasonable, cooperative, say the right things. Oh, I want her or him to have as much parenting time as he can. I believe parenting time is the children need to be with him. They need to spend time with their father or their mother. And then at the same, because they can say the words, but at the same time, they're doing like horrible, just outlandish things to limit parenting time. So that's when good counsel really comes in, because you have to keep putting that out there, setting it up, making it really clear, and just painting the picture so that the court can see it. So the court is familiar with it, and there is a perception and understanding that it is not best for children to be parented by narcissists without any sort of controls or boundaries, because the narcissist just sees the child as an extension of them and can't, perceive their best interest properly. So with finesse, it can be shown to the court. When shown to the court can see it. Now, as Morgan was saying, a CFI report can bring it out. I'm looking at the question in the chat where it says, my CFI is clearly in my favor, among other data in my favor. So I'm assuming that the CFI has seen through the shenanigans, just to call it shenanigans, just so we can not take up too much time discussing what all literally they can do. And it says, however, everyone is wrong, including the CFI author is wrong. Is requesting attorney's fees when dealing with a narcissist generally awarded? Well, let's start with, yes, they're going to say everything is wrong. You know that. Everything that they don't want is wrong. What you want that they don't want is wrong. And so that's the nature of that beast. And can you get attorney's fees? Yes, you can get attorney's fees, but it depends on how your situation is being played out. Are they causing delay, or are they just asking for a trial that they're entitled to? Because the folks are entitled to a trial, but are they delaying the trial? Are they causing unnecessary expenses? Is there an income imbalance such that under the statute, you can ask for attorney's fees because your narcissist earns significantly more than you? Are they in contempt for failing to comply with court orders and discovery requests? I find the narcissist loves to fail to comply. And I don't think they consider it failing at all. They're just doing what they want, and that's what their world looks like. I was on a walk with a colleague whose case I wouldn't take, and I just met her, and it turned out she had this whole narcissistic thing going where her ex was just kind of just running her into the ground, but breaking so many of the court rules. I'm like, file against him, file contempt, file a motion to restrict, file yesterday. There seems to be a type of a narcissistic client relationship where the client just the other party just doesn't want more trouble, doesn't want to make more trouble, just let stuff go because it's just so much to deal with. But what you have to do is get in there and get after it, push back. You need a counsel that will push back. And I would say not do it yourself because it's so draining. You need someone with fresh eyes to say, no, this isn't going to happen anymore. This is how we're going to do this. This is what this is going to look like. And we're not going to, he's not going to hurt our feelings and make us back down. That is what I have seen as a successful approach. And then I see in the chat, I didn't know there were attorneys that specialize in narcissism. I missed the mark. I'm considering changing counsel. I don't know if it's my attorney or my narcissist soon to be ex. That makes sense. It sounds like we say we specialize in narcissism, but we specialize we've been doing this a long time, and we see narcissists all the time, and even more so right now. You can imagine COVID doesn't bring out a lot of the best in certain personalities, and so we're just seeing it over and over and over. My kid, my child, my this, my that. one of the big telltales, and you guys can comment on this, is that you can't, especially when it's your client is the narcissist, breaking them from saying my son, my son this, my son that. The courts hate that, and you're just like, stop. But sometimes they can't stop, and that's where you need good counsel. David, I know you got cut off. Anything you want to add? Okay. Here's a question then. Will I be able to compromise with my spouse? Morgan.
So I think that, like April mentioned, and David mentioned, mediation is required in the state of Colorado. And so in most cases, the judge will, issue a mediation order requiring the parties to mediate. And I think that that is potentially going to be how you can tell whether or not you're going to be able to compromise with that person. Of course, there can be settlement, discussions and agreements made before mediation. So that will kind of give you an idea of whether or not compromise is even in the realm of possibilities. But I do think that mediation will definitely give you a super clear idea as to what they're willing to compromise on, what they're drawing a hard line on, or if they're willing to compromise at all. I think with narcissists, it tends to become clear fairly quickly in that, if they offer something, in regards to property or, whatever the case may be, and you agree to it, then they kind of test the boundaries, right? And then they're like, okay, well, in addition to the property, I want the extra car. And then you say, okay. And then in addition to that, I want, 70-30 visitation with the kids. So I feel like with narcissists, it's very much that, they try and push and push and push to get what they want because that's, the nature of being a narcissist. And so I feel like that's also a really good way to tell whether or not you're going to be able to compromise. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, while, courts obviously want us, want parties to compromise so that they don't have to decide, they don't ever want to have to decide what's right for a family. Courts are always going to encourage that, but sometimes that's just not possible. And sometimes that's why we have to have trials, because it's just not feasible when you're dealing with someone who, can't understand your point of view or where you're coming from. And sometimes that's just the reality of the situation.
And what you see, to follow up on what Morgan's saying, is you see people who are willing to just die on the battlefield for what they want, or they're saying, like, they're just willing to just, burn everything down. Mm-hmm. And that's where it can be very difficult for you if you're a nicer, more reasonable person. And I mean, people tell me stories, and one of my beauty provider salon persons has a story that just, it kills me to listen to it, because I'm just like, do something. But I mean, she's got an ex that will just come at her over and over and over. In fact, he told her he was going to come at her until she gave him 50-50 custody, because the court saw through him and didn't give him 50-50 custody. So even still, he is coming after her. And my thought on that is, go after him. Go after him, go after finances, go after, you're chasing me, you're not chasing me because I'm going after you. I want your every bank statement. I want the front and back pages. I want the page that says intended to be left blank. I want that page, or I'm filing a motion to compel until I get it, because I'm entitled to it. Like, you get worn out when you are the other spouse or the other ex. You just get worn out. Why wouldn't you be? And so you need someone on your side who's not worn out and who is actually kind of angry about how far this has gone against you, and how wrong it is, And that's what we do. So let's take another question in the panel. A lot of these we've already answered. Oh, okay, I hear somebody saying that they're same here, narcissist states 50-50 like a song. Yes. My question is, do you have someone, is there a CFI involved? Like, has the court already made the decision that has already seen through them and said you can't have it? Maybe you need, I mean, are you using Talking Parent or Family Wizard, or what, one of those, what's the one, Morgan, where they correct the speech of the person if they're saying something rude?
I think it's Civil Communicator.
Civil Communicator. Tell them about Civil Communicator.
Yeah, so Civil Communicator is, and it's I haven't had it ordered in too many cases, but the cases I have had it ordered in, it's clear that it's necessary, either because my client can't communicate nicely or the other party can't communicate nicely. And so essentially it's a software that's monitored 24/7 by people, which is why it's a little more expensive than the other types of software that monitor communications like that. But essentially, it will filter out any negative or derogatory language that's being sent through, and they will essentially rewrite your message or edit your message to the other person to make it not so negative or derogatory. And of course, if you're the person who, has a soon to be ex who can't communicate in, a fruitful or purposeful way, that can, relieve a lot of stress and anxiety on your part to kind of have that in place. So I've seen it, I've had, clients ordered to use it and opposing parties ordered to use it, but it can be a really helpful resource for sure.
And they do keep track of the messages that they had to delete. So you still, the same as Talking Parent and Family Wizard, you can still get a transcript and you can show this is the crap this guy is saying that had to be deleted from the messages. So definitely check that out. And then the other question I see, the rest of this question in the chat, because I know we're at 1, but I do want to address this. There's a situation, and this is how typical is this, they're ordered to court, ordered to mediation. Narcissist drags their feet, doesn't submit the paperwork, and the court says, okay, schedules a new mediation date. And then the narcissist says, guess what? I'm not mediating. I'm going straight to the judge and I have no plans of cooperating. So the message in the chat is, so there goes a wasted $1,000. So what do you do in that kind of a situation? Because that is a common enough situation that somebody is pretending to go, they're dragging their feet and they're acting like they're not. To take that literal example, I would mediate with the court mediators at the lowest cost for the minimum 2 hours, check the box, get on the same page with my lawyer. We can even do this virtually, make it as inexpensive as possible, and then move on. Not spend $1,000, not hit your head up against the wall with this person who's not going to cooperate. Just accept this is who and what they are, but then see where the holes are, go after the holes. Don't waste your time going after a thing that they're going to wiggle around. And because mediation, all they have to do is show up and just say, I showed up, we tried, she was unreasonable. And you can't really get them on that as long as they actually, now, if they don't show the second time, you definitely can, and you can ask for fees and fines with the court. So keep an eye out for that. If they don't show, you and your attorney definitely can ask for fees, costs, sanctions, and see what you can get out of the court. All right, it is 1:02, so that is our time for today. I see in the chat that folks have found this helpful, so I'm really happy that you have. And sometimes it's good just to know that you are not making this up. This is a thing, this is a type of person, and the way you're being treated is just what they do, and you just need to take the steps to get informed and then protect yourself and protect your family and protect your finances. All right, so thank you, everyone. We are denverdivorceattorneys.com. That's divorce attorneys, plural, denverdivorceattorneys.com. I'm April. This is Morgan. We've had David. And so you can give us, check us out online, give us a call, schedule something if you want to talk further. Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon. Bye. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. If you or someone you know would benefit from watching a recording of this webinar or any of our other webinars, they can be found at denverdivorceattorneys.com. Thank you, and keep a lookout for future live webinars, and I hope to see you again.